let's talk about segmentation and target marketing. The idea behind this is that marketers can't just sell to everybody. We have to focus in on the people that have the needs and the means to purchase the good or service that we have. So in order to do that, what we don't want to do is just mass market to everybody, assume everybody will buy the product, assume everybody will be able to respond to our requests for research. We really have to focus on people that care and people that should care, even if they don't care yet. So the whole idea of taking the mass population and narrowing it down to the people that are most likely to have the need that is fulfilled by the product or service that you offer is called segmentation. And as you segment the market down into those finer groups, what you end up with, that is called your target market. So objectives for this particular lesson are to understand how to segment markets and why that is important. Learn how to successfully select a target market for a good or service, and then create a buyer persona from a customer segment. Okay, so let's talk about what all this means by first jumping into what market segmentation is. Okay, market segmentation is the process of breaking down larger groups into smaller groups based on meaningful characteristics and shared needs. All right, so some of those characteristics or shared needs can fall into segments such as demographics, geographics, psychographics, or even usage behavior. So what these mean, these are the ways by which a marketer will look at the mass market, the whole population, and say, we're selling socks, we're selling men's socks, and what we cannot do is target everybody with these men's socks. Okay, we can't target kids, we can't target women, right? So demographically, we're only going to target males. Geographically, based on how well our distribution network is, we really can't sell globally. We have to sell nationally or regionally. Maybe they're sports-oriented socks, with certain logos on them. So you might say, we're only going to sell them here in Buffalo, which is where I am, because they are Buffalo Bills socks and they're only for people that are showing up for that first game. So we're only selling it in the stadium or online for people that are going to be at that first game, something like that, right? So even in that sense, you can narrow down the geography from national, from global, down to some very specific event or location. Psychographic are the things that people value, the opinions that people hold. So sometimes certain commercials, let's talk about politics for a second. Certain commercials for politicians will only be shown to people that are more likely to share those opinions of that person, right? That's very common, where a liberal area won't see ads to vote for a conservative person. Conservative people will only see those ads, and vice versa. The idea here is that you really want to get those people that share those interests and share those values to show up at the voting place. That's one example of psychographics, but the whole idea is people that share your values, people that feel like they're sort of bold and very much into taking life by the horns and running with it, might be more likely to buy a Harley Davidson. Those Harley Davidson bikes, that whole culture has its own personality of, bold and, we live life, on the edge, right? That kind of mindset. So that's also looking at people's psychographics and saying, where are people like this? People like this have a certain characteristics. Our brand might not be a Harley Davidson brand, but we sell with the same kind of attitude. We sell pencils that have the same kind of attitude. So we want to go after people that share that bold personality as well, right? So that could be targeting people psychographically based on things they value and opinions they hold. Usage behavior, targeting people this way is when a marketer sits in a room with a group of other marketers, other decision makers, and says, you know what, for certain types of people that use our product this way, we're going to target them separately. Also, based on the seasonality, sometimes you also target people seasonally as well for usage. Let me give you an example of the usage one to really make it sink in. So, for example, Reese's makes chocolate, and they will sometimes shape the chocolate in heart shapes or shape it differently, other different shapes and such, so that it matches the Halloween season or it matches the Valentine's Day season, right? This is when you want to make sure that you are tailoring the product based on the way in which a person might purchase it or use that product, or based on the occasion for which the person might be purchasing the product. Okay, so that's usage. So marketers literally look at the whole marketplace of people that could ever buy their product, any female, male, any gender, any age, anything. And then they start to say, but our customer is more likely to be what? Is more likely to like what? Is more likely to use it what way? Is more likely to live where? So marketers sit together and do research to figure this out. And the reason why you do this as a marketing team is because not everyone is the same, because not everyone has the same need. And as a matter of fact, one of the worst things that businesses sometimes do is think that, our product is for everybody. Anybody would love this. It's not a special audience that wants this. Everybody needs this. No, everybody does not need 99% of all the products. For 99% of products out there, it needs to be tailored to a specific need, right? And so it's very, very, very important for marketers to sit and think about this and come up with a plan for how we're going to segment. And based on the segmentation decisions that we make as marketers, then we say, okay, these are our target groups. These are the different groups of people that would ever buy our product. It could be, let's say you're selling diapers. It could be moms that are buying the diapers. Could be dads that are buying the diapers. It could be people that like very soft diapers that are premium priced. Could be people that like okay diapers that are very affordable, right? So even something as basic as diapers for babies, let's say, even the price point could help you decide which audience you're going to go after demographically, psychographically, geographically, and usage-wise. Really changes everything. So segmentation is everything. All right. So the question is now, how do you create meaningful segmentation? How do you actually do this? Well, the first thing is choosing meaningful characteristics. You don't want to choose characteristics that actually don't matter at all out there. If something is gender neutral and you try to segment it demographically by gender, you're going to miss the mark because you're going to leave out audiences that could have bought the product, but you thought, oh, this is a product made just for this gender, but really any person could have used it. You just kind of over segmented. So you don't want to ever do that. You also want to choose a number of segments or characteristics to include. That's on the marketer to look at the information and say, well, geography doesn't really matter for us. We sell globally. Anybody can buy it. It's really a matter of these other three factors, right? Marketers have to know that. It's your job. It's your job to know. And then determine if the segment is a desirable segment to go after to begin with. So once a marketer sits and starts segmenting things together, as I said, what you're really creating are these markets or groups. We call those target markets. Target markets think of them as the end product of segmentation. Okay? You're figuring out how to define your audience. And after you're done, once you've got your buckets, a certain gender, say males, people that identify as males who are a certain age group who like XYZ and value ABC and live wherever and use the product this way. These are all my male target market. But I also have a female target market, people that identify as female who have these different traits and XYZ. And that's a separate target market. And then you might have a third, right? So at the end of the day, however many target audiences or target markets you end up with. Now, the term target audience, target market used very interchangeably. So is target group. So listen, target market, target audience, target group, three things, three words mean the same thing. No matter what the grouping is that you end up with, they must fit these characteristics. They must be identifiable. You can't create a target market that says people that identify XYZ ways and has all those things that I just mentioned, but then you really can't identify those people in society. You can't make up people, okay? That's the bottom line. They've got to be a good size. They've got to be stable, right? It can't be a group that shifts every 2 minutes, a group that shifts every other month. It's got to be something that you can actually sell to on a consistent and long-term basis. Accessible and congruent. Accessible meaning obviously that you can actually reach them, right? They're not some audience that you can never talk to or ever reach. And then congruent meaning that they align with the business's goals and the business's mission and what the business stands for. You don't want to be marketing to an audience that actually is misaligned with you as a brand. If your brand is very much about, boldness, but your audience is very much a timid audience, then your bold messaging is going to be completely incongruent with them. For example, if you sell very spicy chips and your product you're trying to market to people that really have a delicate tongue when it comes to foods, and you're trying to market to these people, and you're people that maybe live in a culture where they don't do a lot of spicy foods, and you're talking about spice, and your company is all about spicy foods, you are going to be misaligned with that audience, knowing that they would never break from a cultural perspective, that's not their thing. So that's a very small example, but you get where I'm going with. Sometimes marketers will actually come up with the target groups and then decide that they're going to use just one strategy to reach that entire market. And when marketers do that, that's known as mass marketing. You ever sat in front of a TV and seen a commercial for a car? All right. And then your neighbor across the street is also watching that same TV show live, and they're also seeing a commercial for that same car. Regardless of whether you're into hybrid cars and they're into gas cars or what have you, we're all kind of seeing the same message. That's an example of undifferentiated marketing, or also known as mass marketing. On the other hand, a company can target more than one market segment and develop a unique marketing mix for that audience, for each of those target groups specifically. And then at that point, you're calling it differentiated marketing, right? So you can say, all right, we came up with a couple of different target audiences / target groups / target markets when we did our targeting exercise. But we're not just going to focus on the same message to all of them and the same pricing and the same everything. We're actually going to look at each audience differently and give them different messages out there from a communication perspective. We're going to price the product differently for each group, right? We're really going to make an effort to make the product different for each audience. An example of this might be like a razor. A razor company like Gillette could make razors that cut any kind of hair. But instead, they make certain ones for females, certain ones for males, right? We see how they could have gone the undifferentiated route and really sold razors and said, this cuts any kind of hair. You're human. You got body parts that have hair. Use a razor. You're good. But instead, they were like, nah, we're going to make some male ones, some female ones, right? And we're really going to speak to how gentle it is for this and that, and how smooth it is for that and this, and how it contours your this and that, right? That kind of thing. But we're going to change it for different gender types, right? So that's an example to keep in mind of how you can choose to differentiate your marketing based on your target groups. The other type is called the concentrated marketing approach. With this approach, the marketer selects just one target market and customizes the marketing mix that we talked about, the 7 building blocks, for that target market only. You are concentrated. You are zoned in. That's all I want to sell to. This is it. Everything I do is for this audience. I'm not going left. I'm not going right. Okay, so concentrated marketing is really focused on just one target group, one way of selling it. That's it. That's it, and that's all. I'm not talking about commercials. I'm talking about the 7 Ps. How you price the product you make to begin with, how you're going to sell it, the place, the people, the process, the physical evidence, everything we talked about. You're zeroed in on that one audience and that one audience only. For example, my business right now, my business really is focused on SEO, search engine optimization. I'm trying to target businesses that want to increase their rankings on Google. I am not talking about businesses that want to do more social media. I don't really want to talk about your email marketing. I don't want to talk about your branding. I don't want to talk about anything, but only if you know that there is opportunity for you to get more traffic, more free traffic through Google, and you just don't know how to do it. That's who I want to talk to, and that's my concentrated marketing. Everything I do from a pricing perspective, from how I take any question they're asking me and say, you know what, this is how SEO can solve that for you. It's always, that's my lens, and that's what I'm focused on. So for me, concentrated marketing is how I run my business. I'm really focused on one product and one audience that is likely to like that product, and that's it. So that's an example of really focusing in on concentrated marketing. The audience is tailored. I know who they are. I know what challenges they have. I know what challenges they're dealing with on a day-to-day basis. And I know their frustrations. And so I can sometimes know them better than they know themselves. So I can say, I bet you this is what's going on. And I bet you this is keeping you up at night, right? So I'm very concentrated. You will not see commercials for my business. I am really targeting these people hyperly online. So that is the idea here, that you've got really a way to segment the market. That's your first step as a marketer. How do we break down the general population into target markets, aka target audiences, aka target groups? And then based on that, once we have those groups, are we going to be marketing to them via undifferentiated marketing? Are we going to lump them together and send them all the same message and same price and everything? Or are we going to have differentiated marketing where we take each group and give them different messages, different prices, different 7 Ps? Or are we going to concentrate it, pick one and laser in on that one? So once you choose how you're going to be approaching your target market, your next step is to actually deliver a buyer persona. So regardless of what type of marketing you're going to do, differentiated, undifferentiated, or concentrated, you still need to develop a buyer persona. You might already know this. A buyer persona is a representation of a marketer's market segment. It helps you give a face to that target market. So really, a persona is when you say, well, hang on a second. Let me go to this one instead. Hang on a second. I know that I want to target people that identify as males who want to shave their beards and really want to have a clean cut. But that is a lot of men. And what I want to do is really tailor in based on the challenges that they're having. A day in their life. How frustrating is it for them when they don't get their beard shaved the way that they want? Do they end up with nicks and cuts? How does that affect their job? How does that affect how the rest of their day goes? How does that affect the relationships in their lives? You get it? You see where I'm going with this? I'm going deeper. I'm really understanding their pain points. What makes them happy? What is it that they would really reflect or resonate with if I were funny, if I were serious? You know, and the only way to really do a really good buyer persona is to actually research your audience, actually ask people, how does it make you feel when you don't get a close shave? How does it make you feel when you don't get to shave at all? Or you get cuts and nicks when you try to shave? Really trying to understand the audience in a meaningful way so that I can actually say, my audience is not just a bunch of men in a certain age group who like to shave. My buyer persona, you actually give it a name and everything. You say, this is Richard. Richard is a dad of 3 boys. He has a bald head and likes to keep a goatee. He's got a 9-to-5 job that he needs to get out of the door for, but he also has to help his wife in the house every morning to make sure they get the boys on the bus. Richard just needs to be able to shave the night before and know that when he wakes up, he's still as fresh as the next day because he doesn't have time in the morning. But his frustrations are that he can't get it done at night because the boys have to be put to bed. So he needs a short way to do it in the mornings. Richard's frustrations are blank. Like, you have talked to your audience enough to pick out all the hard things that they're struggling with, that you can really boil it down and take pieces from what everybody told you and from the research you've done to even be able to give this person a name and a personality so that when you go to put messages out in marketing, when you go to actually do an ad or do a promotion or do a sponsorship, guess what? You're talking to Richard. And there are a bunch of Richards out there. And they're like, dang, they get me. Because what you did was you took that persona you took that target market that was generic, like males that are between the ages of 25 and 36, who blah, blah, blah. And you started to really hone in on a person and a person's feelings and a person's frustrations and a person's happiness and all those things. So the all marketers, if they're doing marketing right, will take a segment, create target groups, and then create personas for each target group. Okay. Sometimes even multiple personas for each target group. All right. So let's go ahead and boil this down to something that's really important for you to know. Look in your textbook and also look in your slides for the example of a target market versus a persona. Take a close look at that. Very important. And let's review. There are many ways to segment customers. The goal is to create a meaningful target market. That's the first, a couple bullet points of review. The last one is that a buyer persona is a valuable tool to understand your customers better, and that's why marketers do it. Critical to the marketing success and ultimately to the viability of any business.